the last Packers mock draft until the actual draft. We're almost there. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Yeah, I'm done with mock drafts already. Grossi, and today we are going to be doing one last Packers mock draft. We did a 3-round mock draft. I talked about prospects that I think the Packers would potentially target. We talked all about first-round stuff, and now it's time for a 7-round mock draft. Let's just make it happen, because in just one day, the NFL draft will be upon us. So for this one, I kept it pretty simple. I didn't do any trades or anything like that. Just at where the Packers are picking, that's where I had them make their selections. So for their first round pick at pick number 25, they're starting out with Barton, the offensive tackle from Duke. And I've already talked about Barton on this channel. And I think, Cooper DeJean, he wasn't available when I made this pick, so that's why he was not here. But I have a feeling the Packers are likely going to be targeting an offensive lineman, whether it's with pick number 25 or it's with one of their second-round picks, as they have multiple. But I would love if they drafted Barton, because there's usually one or two guys every single year I get really excited about. I love Ray Davis, of course. Cooper DeJean is great. But Barton, he just screams Green Bay Packer to me. He's super duper versatile, played left tackle, likely going to move to the inside as a guard, also could play center. We'll see how things shape up with the Packers there. However, there's a big chance that Barton's not even available where the Packers are picking at 25. And I don't think that they would trade up for him. If they're going to trade up for anybody, I think it would be Cooper DeJean. But here the Packers get a freak athlete. Barton is incredible. He's versatile, and I think he's exactly what the Packers could use. And for anybody saying, hey, I don't want to spend a first rounder on a potential guard. Listen, guards are getting paid more and more money, and this could make the offensive line of the Packers even better. I say go for it. Barton's one of the best in the draft, and hell, I would love if he was the selection. Then with their first of 2 second-round picks, starting off with pick number 41, I have them going with Payton Wilson, the inside linebacker from North Carolina State. Another guy who I've also talked about. Here, he slips out of the first round, and he was still available when the Packers were picking, and so I snatched him right up. Mostly because this is a position of dire need. You could argue that this is actually the Packers' biggest need in the draft. They have Quay Walker, they have Isaiah McDuffie, and then after that, they need some depth here. Wilson's a great player. There are definitely some injury concerns. He had 138 tackles in 2023, and I know there's other guys who are on the list, like Edgerrin Cooper, who would potentially be drafted, but here, I just like Payton Wilson a little bit more. I think there's a little bit more to his game, and if he could stay healthy, I think he'd be a great addition for the Packers. I don't want the Packers to draft an inside linebacker, an off-the-ball linebacker, if you will, in the first round. Here, this checks a need. They get a good player, and I'd be thrilled. Then with their second round pick at number 58, I have them going with Javon Bullard, the safety from Georgia. 5'10", 198 pounds. I've seen him on a bunch of Packers mock drafts, and it makes a lot of sense. He ran a 4.47 40-yard dash, had 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, 56 tackles in 2023, and this is another situation where the Packers have a position of need, safety. Of course, they went out and got Xavier McKinney, which was a fantastic signing, but they still need another body back there, and I imagine they're going to address that most likely on day 2, depending on what happens with Cooper DeJean. If they draft him in round 1, I'm assuming they're thinking he could play corner and not move him to safety. Here, this takes care of safety. Bullard's a great athlete, and if he's available at 58, I would not mind seeing the Packers take a chance on him. Then their first of 2 third-round picks at number 88. I'm having them go corner here with Kyrie Jackson from Oregon. 194 pounds, 6'4". Guy is built like a house. Ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. In 2023, had 3 interceptions, 7 passes broken up. He only played 14 games as a starter, which definitely gives me a little bit of hesitation, and there's definitely some elements of his game that need to get better. However, his build is perfection for a corner. And considering that corner is a need, but it's not their most dire need depending on what happens with Eric Stokes, I would love for him to be available in the third round, and I don't think it's that risky because he wouldn't have to play right away, especially if Eric Stokes is healthy. He'd be more of a depth piece, and then they could kind of analyze it from there. Of course, you have guys like Carrington Valentine who were good last year, but you definitely want to make sure that you have other pieces available in that secondary. Kyrie Jackson would be that guy, and this would take care of the secondary for the Packers, and I'd be a happy man. Then with their second third-round pick at number 91, that's right, I'm still drafting him. We're going with Ray Davis, the running back from Kentucky. And I know that I talked about him in a previous video, and everyone was like, oh, but he's so old. He's 24 years old. He's basically ancient. And I get that, especially for a running back. And on top of that, he's had a lot of miles on him as well. However, I think that Ray Davis could definitely help the Green Bay Packers. One, they have a need at running back. They got Josh Jacobs. They brought back A.J. Dillon on that one-year deal, and they have Emmanuel Wilson, but they need another guy to compete in camp. Spending a third-round pick on Ray Davis, who was great last year, on top of that, caught 33 passes for 323 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's also a receiving threat. Josh Jacobs, not really known as a receiving running back, and right now, the Packers don't have that on the roster. So while Ray Davis, I would argue, is probably a similar build to Josh Jacobs, I think that receiving element is really interesting, and it's something that the Packers need in their offense, especially after they got rid of Aaron Jones. And so because of that, Ray Davis at the end of the third round, yeah, I'd be happy. Then the start of day 3, starting off with round number 4. I decided to have a little fun with this one. Pick 126. I have them going with wide receiver Brendan Rice. That's right, from USC, the son of Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. Can finally make up for that fumble, Jerry. At 6'2", 208 pounds, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. In 2023, he had 12 receiving touchdowns. Really nice route running, just watching some of his tape. And while he could go at the end of day 2, I think if he's available here, the Packers take a shot on him. Because I think for wide receiver, the need is not really there. It just depends what goes on with Christian Watson if he can remain healthy. But having another receiver in that locker room that wouldn't have to be thrown right into the fire, I think would be pretty good. He could develop more of his game, and you can never have too many good route runners. So here, I have them addressing wide receiver. It's kind of a luxury pick here. I don't really know if they would actually go for Brendan Rice, but here, why not have some fun with it? It's a mock draft. Then at pick 169 in the 5th round, I have them going edge here with Grayson Murphy from UCLA. 6'2", 251 pounds. And why am I going edge here? They just drafted Lucas Van Ness last year in the 1st round. Why are we doing this? Well, besides Rashawn Gary and LVN, and of course Preston Smith as well, you can never have too many good pass rushers, 1. But 2, you also have guys who are out with injury. Kingsley Enagbare, for example. Preston Smith is not getting any younger. And watching some of his tape, I do like the quickness that he possesses. He does have some pretty good speed. Definitely needs to develop a bit more, but wouldn't be thrown right in there. Could even just be seen as a rotational player. But again, you're talking about a 5th round pick. That would be pretty good if he makes the roster and is able to make an impact. Wouldn't be thrown into the fire right away because they already have some depth here. But here, Grayson Murphy at 169 could always do worse. Then with their first of 2 6th-round picks at 202, I have them going with Dylan Laube, the running back from New Hampshire. 5'10", 206 pounds, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, and here's why I'm having them draft 2 running backs. We talked about Ray Davis and how he could be effective in the receiving game. Laube, oh yes, great special teams player, 1, and that would be phenomenal to have him here, but 68 receptions for 699 yards, even had 295 receiving yards in a single game. He is a little bit on the smaller side, but I think if they could utilize him in passing downs, that would be awesome because it would just add another wrinkle to that offense, plus giving Jordan Love yet another target, and he kind of offers a skill set that we don't have on the team right now. So Laube as a potential special teams player and as an RB3, I love the value here, especially in the 6th round. Then with their second 6th round pick at 219, that's right, we're getting Jefferson from LSU. No, not that one. Jordan Jefferson, the defensive tackle from LSU, 6'3", 313 pounds. In 2023, he had 7 tackles for a loss, also a forced fumble, had a better 2022 when he was at West Virginia, and another guy who definitely could be a rotational player. The defensive line, the Packers have been looking for a guy to be next to Kenny Clark this entire time, and I don't think they're necessarily going to find it in Jordan Jefferson, but once you get into these later picks, you're kind of just throwing darts at the board here. Jordan Jefferson has a nice build, and if he could be used just for depth along that defensive line, you're happy. Then with their first of 2 7th-round picks at 245, I have them going quarterback. That's right, QB controversy. Joe Milton III. Now, why am I talking about quarterback here? One, Goody talked about they're probably going to draft a quarterback or pick somebody up, undrafted free agent. And if you've heard of Joe Milton before, maybe you've watched some of his play. He's from Tennessee. That guy has an insane arm. The velocity which he throws the ball, he's got an absolute cannon. It's just wildly inconsistent and accuracy is not so good. But having an NFL caliber type of arm and having Tom Clements, who's the QB whisperer, it's not a bad look. If you could keep him on the practice squad while Sean Clifford sits behind Jordan Love, it wouldn't be the worst thing. And considering Goody has already talked about it, I imagine they're going to be taking a QB at some point. And with their penultimate pick, I have them going Joe Milton III. And finally, with their last pick, 255, I have them going inside linebacker again with Dallas Gant because, hey, the Cowboys can't beat us, so you might as well have a guy with the same name on the team. From Toledo, 6'2", 224 pounds. In 2023, had 73 tackles. Definitely good against the run. Outside of that coverage, definitely could use some work. But having a run stopper and taking a gamble on a position where you definitely need some depth, that's why I had them going with Dallas here. And heck, maybe he'll make the roster. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How would you feel if the Packers draft shook out like this? Let me know. We're almost there. You guys send me at Tom Grossi Comedy. All social media is down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.